Hello and welcome back to Electrified Marina Podcast. I'm your host and producer, Brooks Lawson.
And Eric from Electrified Marina.
Today is Thursday, May 8th, and our guest today is EMO Electric. Thank you guys for taking time to join us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to be here.
This show is brought to you by us at Electrified Marina. Please check out electrifiedmarina.com and call or email us if you decide you have any interest in buying a new boat or repowering an old one. Please post any questions or comments in the comment section on YouTube. Eric, you want to talk some announcements from Acel?
Yeah, man. We just partnered with this company. They've been doing a lot of powertrain work outside of the U.S. and they're tapping into the U.S. and they reached out to us. And a couple meetings later, we're putting together one of their tri-tunes. It's pretty cool. It's going to be a 75 horsepower tri-tune, and the part I like about it is it's getting more and more affordable. There's a lot of people on electric-only lakes or small bodies of water that don't need a massive boat or want to spend 150, 200,000 on a boat. And we're putting their tri-tune together, and it's a small, 6-passenger tri-tune, 43 kilowatt hours, I think. Don't hold me on that. But it's going to be like $80,000. And the prices keep coming down. Usually when we're talking about boats that are at planing speeds, I usually start in the 100-ish thousand, but they're getting more affordable. Super exciting company. They did some hydrogen hybrid boats, and they've been building powertrains in Europe and Asia quite a bit. So super excited to be working with them.
Then you want to give us some more quick boat show updates?
Yeah, man. We finished up, God, I don't know how many weeks it's been, but we finished up the Bay Bridge Boat Show, which weather absolutely wrecked us. We did a small boat show at Northern Neck, which is like Kilmarnock, Irvington, Virginia, which went amazing. That area had a Duffy dealer before, and you could just tell because the conversations were different. And it's really cool because a lot of these people have 2 to 3 docks out back, and one of them is their big boat, and the other's a Duffy. And so we're going to go, it went so well that we're going to be going back to the area for another event. They're just so receptive to it. And so many of them are like, oh yeah, I just stay here on the creek. And it's like I say creek, it's right off the Chesapeake Bay. It's like a 5-6 mile creek. They can do the entire thing at these slow boat speeds and, go down and back in 2 hours. And like, that is perfect for a lot of these people. So we ended up selling 3 boats now from that one event. We sold all the Vision Marine fantails we had left. So we're trying to do like a bulk order of those right now to get more down to them because there's a lot of people wanting them. And then we just did the DC show this past weekend. I just finished unpacking today from it. Went amazing. We sponsored it, had a DC fast charger on the docks. Didn't go that well in terms of the DC fast charger. Somebody couldn't math that well, so I was there till midnight both nights, first 2 nights, trying to get it solved. Turns out you can't pull 300 amps from a 200 amp panel. Surprise. But once we got it working, it was amazing. It was a 50 kilowatt chem power unit. And I mean, we were charging boats up in 45 minutes to an hour and back to back to back. And I was expecting something to break, the boats to thermal limit, from overheating, because it was really a stress test. We had an X-Shore 1 out there, and I kid you not, for a solid 10 hours, it was either fast charging or on boat rides. We got no warnings, no thermal management issues. Like that battery, I mean, you could almost argue that that's the hottest it would ever get. And it stayed cool the entire time. So between them, the Ingenuity, we had 2 flux powered boats there. And the Taiga Orca. We did a little over, I think it was around 120, 130 people out on boat rides. Or no, that was boat rides. It was like 400 something people. But we were slammed the entire time with boat rides. It was really cool. Didn't sell any boats, but we've got a lot of really good leads, a lot of people educated, and so many people, they get it, and like they always said, like, oh yeah, well, I can see them making sense. A lot of those people stay between there and like the wharf, and they just jump around to a couple restaurants. They're not going far. But no, it's a really good show. We had 7 boats there. It was probably one of the biggest electric boat demo events in history in the US. I'm not sure if anybody's had more a diverse group of boats either. So we were kind of talking about that the first night we were on a boat ride. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, 3 good shows. We've got some local stuff, the little Strawberry Festival for us, and an event at the Norfolk Yacht Club. They'll be doing something at Williamsburg Yacht Club. But gonna kind of take it easy June. I say that, but we've got other stuff on the radar. But I think that's good for updates.
All right. As I mentioned earlier, our guests today are Luke and TR from EMO Electric. Do you guys want to talk us a little bit about the company and about the origins of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started EMO Electric, it was about 2.5 years ago. We kind of fell into it. I grew up out east on Long Island, and I've boated my whole life. I sailed as a kid and taught sailing, still teach sailing in the summers here for many, many years, and spent winters working on yachts. And I've always been around boats and loved being out on the water. And TR and his wife bought a place on Long Island maybe about 4 years ago, and next door to the property my family's had for close to 100 years here. And so TR and I obviously met, and TR wanted to get back into boating. He had done some of it as a kid. And in addition to teaching sailing, I would teach people how to use motorboats. And TR went onto Craigslist and found an old trophy with a old, very smoky two-stroke on it. And so we started going out on the water with that. And you know, obviously like engine troubles, a lot of engine troubles, a lot
Just
of
leave it
a
at
lot
that.
of smoke, a lot of noise. And maybe TR can take it from here and talk a little bit about his background and why he
Very
thought there
little
might be a
time on
better
the water.
solution.
Right? Very little time on the water. It turned out it's an awful lot of time at the repair shop down the road from our place. But yeah, I think I mean, Luke obviously had like a tremendous boating background, and it's just like literally in his blood, from many generations. So it was great to learn a lot more about power boating. I'd done some sailing and stuff, but he sort of helped me with that, helped me navigate this terrible boat that I had bought. Um, but my background is I'm in the solar business, and I own a solar company called Brooklyn Solar Works, based in New York City, and pretty active environmentalist in that regard. So when we had this potential to have a boat, and the first one we had was clearly negatively impacting the environment, way more than I could tolerate. We started talking and just looking around at all the different options that existed for electric boats, and um, as we do sometimes, Luke and I start jamming out on business ideas and things that are going on, and we we knew that there was an opening, certainly up in the Long Island area, for electric boats, and whatever flavor that was, we weren't totally sure, but when we got going, we knew that we wanted to try and lean into that and just and really focus on it and not have distractions of other boats or other, sort of different modes. So, um, we started talking to the various vendors out there, and still, even though this is like not that long ago, there just wasn't much of an option out there for, certainly for high horsepower motors, which that's changed obviously in the past few years. But back then, it was definitely Torqeedo, e-propulsion, Elco. Those are kind of the main ones. So that once we kind of decided, like, okay, we're going to figure out how to electrify this real smoky boat and use that as a test case. And it's a 21-foot trophy, so it's a decently sized power boat. So we couldn't just strap a 5 horsepower uh, you know e-propulsion on there and call it a day. We really wanted to do the best we could with as high powered motor as we could find within reasonable cost. And so yeah, that was the first one we really did, was the trophy, and we put a Elco 50 on there. And guys at Elco are really really great to work with. Very interested in trying to make it work, but it was definitely like a science project. On both sides, I would say. And then, of course, because of my obsession with solar, we had to put solar on the T-top of the boat, and we were charging the batteries with panels. So
How many
sort of
panels?
three.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna see
Yeah,
pictures.
pretty.
Did it look good?
They, it was, I mean, it looks a bit like a boat with a bunch of solar panels on there, but I mean,
It was a
it was all right.
third party T top.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
We
So
made it look all right, but it did not have a T top when TR bought it.
yeah. We did. We fully modded it out. We cut out the fuel tank. That was super gratifying. You know, and so we cut that out and then put in a hatch and popped a bunch of batteries in there. So, did full sort of open heart surgery on the boat to get it working. And, it took a while. I mean, it was, classic troubleshooting and, this number of different technical issues, but like eventually we got it going and, it's, it was great. It was super gratifying. And, I remember our first real trip with my family, like going out in the water and knowing that it was like just clean electric motor, and Elcos, they don't really stick out, I wouldn't say, relative to some of the other motors out there. So I'm not even sure anyone knew that it was electric, at the time. But anyway, that's sort of how we got going, and I think we're very interested in the technology, and we're also just like super passionate about making the world a better place and leaving the ocean in a better spot than when we found it. So like that for me personally is pretty big motivation. Yeah, especially where we're at in Moriches Bay and Long Island. Like, all we do is watch gas boats rip right by us, and uh, if we can start swapping those out with electric, it'd be super gratifying.
So where did you guys come up with the name EMO?
Yeah. So East Moriches is the town that we're in, and that's a nickname for the town. And yeah, it kind of seemed appropriate because we definitely wanted it to be a local spot, and like a little shout out to like how Luke and I met, and got it going.
It's awesome. Really curious. I've never seen much content on that boat. You guys got to share more of it. First of all, uh,
Yeah.
second of all, what batteries do you put in that thing? There's not much that you can made up with the 50 horsepower.
Yeah. It was a 96-volt system. They had like a special custom build battery, and we went through a couple different packs. I'm trying to remember the names of the packs, but they were like super custom.
Jeez, and that was through
Yeah,
Elko though.
through Elko. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yep,
got it.
yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, we had a little bit more content on the site. I think it's slimmed down a little bit as we've updated that, but it was before we, started leading into YouTube and all of that. But no, I agree. We should have a little bit more info
Yeah,
on that book. So it was a good first step and a
Yeah,
fun little science project there.
yeah, it's a cool origin story.
yeah.
And we've still got it. We're looking to donate it. If anyone out there knows a good cause who wants an electric boat that runs well and is solar powered, reach out to us. Open
I
ears.
might have someone to. I'll chat with you later about someone.
So I learned about 15 minutes ago that Electrified Marina is in fact not America's only electric boat dealer. So tell me a little bit more about what kind of products you guys carry.
Yeah. So, like TR said, when we started this, we weren't sure exactly how it was going to go. And, it's hard to imagine that it's only 2.5 years ago and how much the electric boat landscape has changed in the US. But when we when we first got into this, it was like, okay, well, like we want to sell something related to electric boating. What can we sell? And Torquedo was kind of the obvious first step. And so we signed on with them, and we bought a Cruise 12, which is their 12 kilowatt, 25 horsepower system to kind of get going with our initial order from them. And we tried that out on a 13-foot Boston whaler. We've actually had that, the pure watercraft motor, and an earlier flux motor on that whaler. So it's had three different electric outboards on it. But anyway, so we started with Torquedo. Eventually we signed on with ePropulsion, who's been, kind of the vast majority of what we've sold so far. And now we're also a dealer for Remigo, who's a newer startup out of Slovenia in the EU. They make this awesome 3 horsepower electric outboard, kind of looks like a rudder. And then we are also a dealer for Timo France, who makes the Timo 450, which is this pretty unique kind of like stick style 450-watt, 1.5 horsepower electric outboard. And then finally, just a couple weeks ago, we got their Timo 1000, which is a more traditional electric outboard. Also 1 kilowatt, 1,000 watts, 3 horsepower. So those 4 brands are what we sell. And right now, pretty much all of our revenue stream comes from selling these small electric outboards. But we're also a dealer for Flex Marine. So we sell their Scouts, their high fields, and maybe TR can talk about how that happened a little bit. But we've gotten to know them, and we're super, super excited about what they're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm psyched that you guys are also, partnering with them because it's been a journey, and I suppose I sort of lucked out in a lot of ways. While we were trying to get this electric boat, the solar one going, I had found out about Flux, and they were like still very much in startup mode. But I lobbed a call in there and just happened to get John Lord, who's the CTO over there, and he was super nice and great and knew exactly what I was trying to do, and I was also living in New York City at the time, and so he came over and visited our solar company, and we hung out and had a couple beers, and he's like, I'm going to help you guys out. We're going to get this done. And so he and all of Flux have been really, really awesome at working with us, and got us an early prototype that we were able to put on that whaler, and we're just super psyched about their tech, and the company itself is just really, really well aligned with all of us. Like we're all kind of working it together. So when they started to scale up a bit more and had some outboards for sale and also boats for sale, we were chomping at the bit to try and get an opportunity to work with them there. And as soon as those became available, they tapped us on the shoulder, gave us a chance, and thrilled to be working with them on those boat types, and also starting to talk about repowers for really any use case. And then something else we're doing is we're also actually fabricating our own boat. It's an aluminum catamaran power cap that bit of a passion project for me. My father and I got going just as a hobby, talking about electric boats like a long time ago, and it was sort of part of the reason for helping to start EMO Electric was to keep that going. He passed a couple years ago, and I had started EMO, but like wasn't quite off the ground, and so we got a chance to jam out on electric motors for a little bit before he died, and I had showed him this boat that we were thinking about doing, and it's taken us like 4 years, but we think it'll be in the water in the next couple months, and that's going to have twin fluxes on it, and should be pretty sweet. So we're definitely in the electric boat business at this point.
What size boat is that?
It's like a 23.
And it'll have 300 horsepower roughly?
300 horsepower, yeah. It's also foil assisted, so between the two hulls and the catamaran, there's a foil that runs between it. So we think it's going to improve efficiency by some meaningful amount. We're hoping 30%. That's sort of what we've calculated, but until we drop it in the water, you never know.
did you guys just like slap those on there, or like get the engineering? Like, I mean, because that's like that. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of math that goes on there rather than just throwing some foils on.
Yeah. And we worked with a naval architect to kind of help us, shape the design. And it's an aluminum boat, and I own a company that makes solar canopies, and they're all made out of aluminum. So we have really good fabricator relationships from that side of things. So I felt like I really wanted to try and go for it with aluminum as the main hull material, and this naval architect was like specific to aluminum boats, like smaller, sort of 20 to 16 foot to 25 foot, 30-foot boats. And we thought that we think still that it could be a very compelling offering, just because it's slightly bigger, but all purpose built for electric. So we're gonna be able to weave in all the cool things that we think should be on that kind of a boat. But it's still an alpha version, so we'll see how that goes.
That was my next question. What are the next phases of this? Is it like the goal to make this like a production boat? Maybe not mass production, but a production boat, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be really sweet. Like I hope I enjoy it, and Luke enjoys it, and our family and friends enjoy it. And I mean, you guys are certainly welcome anytime. But yeah, I think we want to put it through its paces and make sure it's like something we can be proud of. And if it is, I'm quite sure we can do it again.
Good stuff,
And
man.
yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah.
We've got the Stealth from GFX with the Flux on it. We had it at the DC show, and it was like one of the fan favorites there. I mean, you packed 10 people on it. It was quick too. It's got like their latest production motor. I don't know if it's a different tune or a different prop, but it's got a little bit more pep in its step than what our Scout powered one does. But it was impressive, and it's a catamaran style, so it rides really well. You could argue it's more efficient. There's obviously no foil assist, but we're probably going to sell that boat like next week. I'm kind of bummed, but it's a super cool boat. I love the style. You end up with a ton of space for whether it's batteries or storage. Like you have a lot of usable space.
Yeah, yeah, and that hopefully we also spent a bunch of time on like a swim platform and that kind of thing on the stern to like make it really usable for just anchoring and hanging out in the back, and make it a social boat.
I like it.
Yeah. No, we're excited. I think around here, most of the people who are out on the water are out there because they're fishing, but there's a huge contingent of people who want to be out on the water that don't have any interest in fishing. And center consoles really dominate the market. And so when we designed this boat, it wasn't designed to be a fishing boat. It's not designed to go offshore. It's designed for inshore bays. It's not, we're not a pontoon boat. To step away from that, we're a real boat, but one that's designed to be comfortable for hanging out, cruising around, and if you want to go fishing, you can go fishing. But at the same time, it's more than a floating living room. Not to knock pontoon boats, there's a wonderful time and a place for that. But when you're not on a lake and things start to get choppy, we want something that's going to be able to handle that and get you out there.
I was going to say you were knocking pontoon boats a little bit, but I mean they're the number one selling boats in the country for a reason. It's
No,
like
absolutely.
it's like the minivan. Like nobody really wants it, but once you're on it, it's like the best thing ever.
Well, and it's funny, and like to me, it's getting into this business, it's really been eye opening about pontoon boats and freshwater boat usage, because around here, like I don't think I saw a pontoon boat on Murch's Bay until a couple years ago, and now like there's a couple that I see out there, and like I love it. The idea of like being in a living room out on the bay is great, but it was an eye-opening experience to me to kind of realize what you said, that they're the best-selling boats in the country, and how much boating exists in the United States outside of the coast.
Yeah.
And, obviously electric is such a great use case for that. Like we're excited about this, but in a lot of ways, we're not in the best place to do it because we're not a super protected waterway. We're not on a lake. Most of the people here have kind of their center consoles, and they want to be able to go offshore, and they want to be able to run longer distances. But at the same time, we know there's plenty of people around here who are just poking around in the bay, like my mom. She goes, over to the sandbar, over to this island, down to the yacht club, and it's all happening within 5 miles, more or less. And we're fortunate in that we in East Merchants here, we live really close to an inlet and the part of the bay that a lot of other people travel to. But we know we're not the only ones who don't need to go too far to have an awesome day out there. And electric is such a great uh application for that. The amount of times I've been out on a boat and there's been some issue with fuel and just something I can't solve and have to call a friend to get towed in. And obviously alpha versions of electric have had their issues, and not to say we haven't had to tow each other in on an electric boat, but it's such early days, and it's so obvious to me that this is going to be the way of the future for so many boaters and in the near future.
Yeah, it's well said, man. I'm training a new salesperson right now, and she's listening on these calls. They're sitting next to me, and I'm on these discovery calls. And like part of us, when we're doing a discovery call, is like making sure it's a good fit. If you tell me you want to go from here to Cape
Absolutely.
Charles, like I'm not selling you a pontoon with 5 horsepower. Like you are gonna hate me very much afterwards. Like don't get me wrong, you could do it on the calmest day ever, but that's gonna be a handful of times a year. And so like I mean I have 3 people buying slow cruising pontoons. Like these people don't want anything more than 5 horsepower, and I ran out of them. So I'm trying to get more, and we're going to become a legitimate pontoon dealer. I just need to find someone that will let me become a dealer and only do electric. I don't want to deal with any of the gas stuff, and they've got issues with that.
Yeah.
I'm literally reached out to Mercury, and it's like, hey, I'll carry your electric outboard, or no, I think it was Yamaha recently. I was like, I'll carry your outboard, but I don't want to deal with the rest of the stuff. And they're like, that's not possible. I was like, yeah, you've probably never gotten a request like this, but it's going to happen again. You need to start changing your policies now, man. A lot of us don't want to deal with this crap. And it's like you said, there's a lot of use cases for it. I have 3 buyers right now for low speed electric pontoons, and we're going to end up buying gas pontoons and converting them to electric and then selling off all the gas components. It's going to be pretty cool. It'll make for good
Yeah.
content, I guess.
Yeah, when we first started, we just like reached out to the local Boston whaler dealer, and they talked to Brunswick, and they were like, "Yep, can't sell you a boat without a motor on it." Like
Right.
that's how it goes. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Times are going to change. I mean, I just had that earlier this week. There's a boat show on Long Island that we exhibited at a couple years ago, and it was not our target market. We've done the boat show in Manhattan since then, and it's been a lot more fruitful. But I went to the Long Island show just as not as an exhibitor, as a guest, and I met this company who specialized in inflatable boats, and they're on Long Island. And I met their manager, super nice guy. Introduced myself. He was really interested in electric, uh, and we wanted to set up, some way of working with them. And he was like, "Yeah, we get people who ask about electric, but we don't sell any. Don't know if we're like ready to kind of take it on board." And I was like, "Well, I get people who ask about inflatables all the time, and we're in a relatively dense area of boat dealers, and we've called Highfield, we've called AB, we've called Zodiac, and there's not really, we're too small and there's dealers too close. So, it would be a perfect fit. We can refer that people to them for inflatables, and they can refer people to us who don't want to buy their Tohatsus and they want to buy electric." And so anyway, I had a bunch of conversations with the manager there, and the owner had been out of town, and finally I got him on the phone, and he was, very nice, very polite, but he was just like, "Yeah, I just don't think the tech's there for electric." I was like, "Well, like, but don't you sell inflatables, like, for people to get to and from moorings and things like that?" He was like, "Yeah, I just don't really think it's there yet." And I was like, "Well, I disagree. Like, we sell a lot of these motors, they work really well for that. Like, they aren't going to work really well for the big ones that you sell, but and I pushed him on it a little bit, and I'm like, look, you don't even have to have a motor in your store. I'm just saying, if someone wants electric, you could send them my way, and you'll get a cut. And I'd love to send you people for inflatables. And he was like, yeah, would love to do something down the line, but just don't really think it's there yet. And I was like, yeah, you sure you don't want to come for a ride? And he was like, yeah, not interested. And so I think there's just this whole like old guard of marine industry people who I think the vast majority of them don't know it exists, but even the ones that do, like, have these kind of predisposed biases and think it's a fad and not the way to go, just like with cars. And, I think we're going to be proven very right in the long run. I mean, hopefully we'll all be watching this episode in 10, 20 years and kind of laughing about it. But yeah, we're excited about it. And there's other avenues, and there are people selling inflatables who understand electric, and they're don't want you to spend $150,000 on a container full of boats, and willing to sell you a couple. And that's who we're working with, and that's who we're excited about, and who we're going to sell, and who we're going to get out there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that I don't know, that mindset, because I ran into it, the entire I don't know, the entire time I was at Tesla. Even today, people think, oh, electric cars are going away. They had a dip in sales. Yeah, it's like, yeah, for 1/4. Like, they've been selling millions of them. This isn't a little commodity that that disappeared, after a couple units. But we can't even give away free charging stations. I mean, I went door knocking to a lot of the marinas that have restaurants on them, and I was like, hey, I can host a rental fleet here. Someone will pay to put in a fast charger here. And like, these people just weren't interested. It was kind of mind blowing, but it's the same problems I had with electric car chargers way back in the day. So it's kind of ironic. I can't wait for it to come full circle, and then they realize how dumb they were and call me in 5 years for a free charger. I'm like, oh, sorry, gave them all away.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you've been through this with electric cars, and so you have so much insight into watching it happen with boats. And I do think there are more challenges with boats than there are with cars, but at the same time we have cars to pave the way.
I don't know, man. I think like charging infrastructure is the hardest part. Most boats go back to a marina slip or a dock. Like, and most of those have electricity, obviously most of our customers are like higher net worth, so most of them have a decent dock with a boat lift. Like, if you've got a boat lift, normally you've got 220 down there. Like, charging is taken care of, and more than likely you're coming back at the end of the day. If you're the average pleasure boating consumer with a normal use case, whereas electric cars, it's like only 60% of people have off-street parking, and then how many have room in their electrical panel, and how many X, Y, and Z. But in terms of pleasure boating, like, we can scale this for another 10 years at mass production, and we still wouldn't touch the people that have the capability. But in terms of like deep sea fishing and water resistance and everything, I agree, like, odds are against you. But in terms of like consumer boating, it's like 40% of it can be electric tomorrow. And every manufacturer building right now could ramp up as fast as possible, and we wouldn't touch even a couple percent of that, in 5 years. We're early on in this, but I don't know. It's going to be really cool to talk about, like you said, 5-10 years from now, and just laugh as we've got, some cool, like, solid state foiling boats that have like 1,000 miles of range, and like, they're not even selling gas engines anymore because they don't make sense.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're almost at that point with electric. It's like the leases now on some of these
Absolutely.
things that are $300 a month. It's like, hey, you don't want maintenance, and you don't want to deal with headaches, and you want to wake up to a full charge every day. Like, I've got a lot of people in like lower middle class to middle class income brackets, and like asking me about Teslas. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's a damn good car. And most of them don't need a charging station at their house. They can plug in with a 110 outlet because they're driving 20, 30 miles a day. So I don't know. It's pretty cool to see that transition. And we're, I don't know, 10 years behind it right now in the boat world. So we'll see how things go. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I also think that, basically what happened to me, like, I wasn't a power boater. I got interested in it, something changed, and I think all the new entrants into boating are likely, especially if they're younger, going to be way more predisposed to looking at electric, and to me, I think that could be the sleeper, because like some of these old school folks, like we're just not going to convince to get off of a gas or diesel motor anytime soon, but the folks that are just kind of coming into the space and learning about it, I think and it sounds like you guys, that's part of your market, right? Is like just new entrants that are just total clean slate that are kind of like, well, yeah, of course we'd use an electric
and
because
and
that's smart.
right. That's kind of one of those barriers to entry, whether it's education or the workload that comes on with it. And it's like you start removing those barriers. Now it's more I don't know, palatable. It's easier for them to grasp buying a boat, And I loved it because we were on the busiest part of the boat show at DC. And you see the husband and wife, and they're walking like, hey, in the market for a boat, and they're like, oh no, she doesn't want one. And it's like, hey, if you're worried about the maintenance, like this is it, like, and once you start expressing the benefits of it, they start, like, you could see the gears turning, they're thinking about it. And then like you run into the people that have the electric car, and they're super easy to relate to. And a lot of them, it's like, it's that area has been exposed to electric longer than a lot of people. DC, Northern Virginia area, Maryland, like that DC metro area was one of the biggest and earliest adopters of electric cars. I was up there at the Rockville Service Center 12 years ago, and you'd see between there, like LA, San Francisco, they had some of the busiest locations. So these people have been exposed to electric cars for a long time. And now you talk to them and it's just like, hey, all the benefits of driving electric, like it's the same thing, but on the water. And when you tell that to a boat person that's used to dealing with ethanol headaches and fuel filters and oil changes and tune-ups, it's like, how much of that break out of another 1,000 wouldn't be there if the electric powertrain was outside of it? You might still have some other maintenance. There might be little stuff, but when you get rid of the worst part of the headache, it makes it a lot easier to consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we got our Scout from Flux end of last summer, and we put a multi-season ablative bottom paint on it, and had it in the water for a couple months, had it at the boat show in New York, and was sitting in next to TR's driveway for a couple months. And it was, of all the boats that I deal with getting in and out every year, that was the first one in, because there was just, I moved it over to closer to the garage. I plugged it in, it charged up, I washed it, it's floating. Like, that's it, you know that's it. We're taking a little bit of time to get our charging setup going at our new marina, but that's really just like waiting for a 50 amp cable. And once we've installed that in the dock in a way where it's like no one's going to trip over it and it's hanging on a pedestal for us, like we're golden.
I just
There's
Did you guys make a reel about your winterization process and like pulling it out of it? Because I didn't, and that was a huge missed opportunity. Like, oh, let me
no,
plug this in. Done winterizing.
we didn't, but that's a good reminder. Let's remind each other in the fall for
Yeah,
taking our boat to the marina for
right. Put the
winterization
cover
again.
on it. Here we go.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, I had to get our cover sewn. That was the one piece of spring prep, little rip in the cover.
Not bad for boat maintenance.
Right.
No, certainly
But
not.
what's interesting about that is certainly in like colder markets where you do like really do winterize your boat, often it's got to go sit somewhere. But in cases where you can get your boat close to your house, and then you have a 84 kilowatt hour battery that's just kind of chilling. Um, I do think at some point, it's a bit far off, but as more like V2G charging becomes prevalent, there's no difference between like that, like a EV, and having a boat, literally, like if it's near your house or accessible. I mean, that's a lot of juice, man. That'd back up your house for many, many days, So it's like a Ford Lightning, but just a boat and you're obviously not going to drive your boat while it's winterized. So it's very much a captive, you know, energy storage system
And
for for that
Yeah.
period of time.
And that's the crazy part. It's like a Tesla Powerwall is what, $10,000, and what are they, like 10, 15 kilowatt hours? Like,
Yeah, 13 kilowatt hours.
yeah, you probably install them.
Mhm.
You figure you've got I don't know, 6 of those in your boat. It's yeah. That V2G is the side of things that everyone's kind of sleeping on right now. I think I've seen a handful of test cases in Europe. I think Vita did it with somebody over there. But I mean, we're working on redesigning this marina, and it's funny the conversations we're having with the design architects for it. And it's like, hey, we're gonna have a smart load balancing panel here, and we need like dedicated home run circuits to each one of these. And we're gonna have a dock that's gonna be like dedicated 50 amp circuits for electric boats. But all of them are gonna have the ability to backfeed with the amount. I mean, even if you have 10 boats there, and we've got some boats that have 126 kilowatt hours of batteries, and it's only getting bigger. They've got the Arc with 220 kilowatt hours. Like, we could very quickly have a megawatt of batteries, or 2 megawatts. Or, I mean, once you factor in houseboats and everything else we plan on doing, like, we're very much going to have an off-grid energy solution at a marina. And the crazy part is, like, it's the perfect application. They get used maybe once a week, maybe twice a week on a crazy high user. But I don't know, it's going to be really cool. I could see in the near future, I mean, even 5-10 years from now, you plug your boat in and you authorize the marina to, do these small load balancing dips and ebbs and flows, and you let us know when you're going to be back at your boat, and we'll have it fully charged for you. And that'll be built into a scheduler, hopefully an app and everything. But that entire time, that whole week, your boat's making you money. And it's not like it's up the battery pack at, super high discharge and charge rates. So you're not going to notice like accelerated degradation over if you're pulling, 10, 20 amps out of the thing. But it's going to be pretty exciting about that. We were just even chatting with our utility company, Dominion. I was trying to like get this innovation director, like get them aware of what I foresee and what I envision. And like the amount of permits and headaches that come into play once you get above like 20 kilowatts of solar. And then it's only like, I think it's like 50 or 100 kilowatt hours at home. Like, it's like it's like uncharted territory for a lot of the stuff they're doing. We don't have much solar down where I'm at. They do in Northern Virginia, but I don't know, there isn't as much down here, and it's gonna be a fun project when it's done, because the
Mhm.
battery capacities are just gonna be massive on these boats.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's already happening like, in the home. So like even Tesla and others, they have what's called a virtual power plant. And it's just basically orchestrating all the batteries at the same time to discharge during peak periods, or, uh, just provide grid services. And I mean, it's literally no difference. It's just in our case, we would have a much higher capacity battery to use. So like, I mean, the use case could be quite quite plausible. And I mean, if you're discharging it with those kinds of volume, like, it could be like real money. It's like they have a program in Long Island for this, and I think it's like it's at least a couple $100 a year that you can get for just like certain specific windows where you discharge. Um, but that's for like small systems. So like if it's bigger, there's even bigger chance for that kind of stuff. So it's already kind of happening on the land, but
Hold on,
you know,
you said virtual power plant. That's just using power walls though, not using cars yet, right?
um, no, exactly. Yeah, it's power walls. Really any sort of uh, differing in size battery. So it could be a power wall, could be a N-phase system, um, larger installations. Sometimes even containers full of batteries for grid services. That's a big deal in the city. That's some of the few batteries that are being deployed, are like container scale battery systems out there. So it's already being done. It's just uh, it can also rip around the bay and then provide those kinds of services.
I love it, man. Really quick on your solar company, Brooklyn Solar. I can't imagine like the rooftop square footage ratio to buildings is that great. Like, where are you installing solar at?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so one of our sort of founding products was a solar canopy. And so when you in New York City, there's a lot of fire codes and restrictions, obviously not much space. So in order to get solar on a roof, you actually have to raise it above the roof 9 feet in the air in order to like maximize the space and comply with the fire code. 9 feet is a fire fireman that's 6 feet tall that swings an axe, and that's how they determined the height, I guess. You know, not sure if that's even ever going to happen, but that was the code requirement. And so yeah, so we have a canopy that we use to raise the system above the roof, and yeah, it just gets more solar on a brownstone style roof. You know, typically 20 feet wide, 40 to 60 feet long, and
I guess that is a decent amount of space.
yeah, I mean it's big enough that it could power a house for sure if you use the canopy. So
Okay,
so
I was
yeah, so that
thinking more on the commercial skyscraper side of stuff, but you do a lot of residential.
oh yeah, we do. That's primarily our business is residential and skyscrapers. Yeah, like I mean, it's just kind of a lost cause to go after
Yeah.
that. But there's a lot of new laws that are out there that are requiring buildings to go solar in the city. So I'm sure we'll start to figure out whatever we can.
Huh. Interesting.
So you guys are apparently doing well because you're opening a new store. Can you tell us about that? Where is it located, and what's the goals for that?
Yeah, so we're fortunate, we have a number of marinas within walking, biking distance to us. And one of them, when we were looking for a slip for our scout, which spent last year at my family's place, which is we're very fortunate to have a dock here, but it's not the best location if you're trying to do demos and get folks who don't know out on the water all the time. So we were, committed to finding a home in a marina that would be a little bit more suitable for demos for this summer. And one of the marinas that's half a mile away from where TR and I live had not only a slip but a small little kind of office retail space that they were willing to rent to us, and they've been awesome, super hospitable there. So we've got kind of small little showroom for electric outboards there. We'll have Torqeedo, ePropulsion, Remigo, and Timo there. I was saying to TR earlier that I think it will probably be the largest selection or a showroom with the largest selection of electric outboards in the country. We had to buy a couple more motor stands this week because I realized that we didn't have enough, which will be super cool. A lot of the business we do are people who have like heard about a specific motor from a friend of theirs and they just want that one. But I think as more people become aware of this and the phone calls start to be like, I want an electric outboard, not I want a Torqeedo or I want a new propulsion, we will be able to provide a ton of value to people and be able to explain the benefits to of each motor to each person. Because right now there's not a clear winner with in the small electric outboard space, at least in my opinion. There's each motor has advantages and disadvantages, and which one we recommend really depends on the boat and the use case and all that. So we're excited to have all those motors in one space. My sailboat's just around the corner at another marina, and we have, if anyone wants to try any of the electric outboards that we have, they can come out on my sailboat, try one, try two, try three, see which one's best for them. We also do demos. If someone has a sailboat not too far from us, we can take a couple motors to them and they can try them all out and see which one they like. And we're stoked to provide that to people because I don't think there's really anyone else who can do that. And it's cool to see all the new options out there. So we'll have all those on display. It'll be a nice little space for TR and I to get away, get out of the house and not work from home, and some dedicated space to think about electric boats and electric motors. And we're also going to start selling some trolling motors there. I think we've looked at these small electric motors as, like when we came into it, we wanted to sell these big electric boats, but it wasn't really an option 3 years ago. So we were like, well, like, why don't we start with the little ones? And we look at it more of a funnel, I think, than anything else, because the guy who spends a couple $1,000s on a little kicker for his sailboat or his dinghy today, couple years down the line, when he's thinking about repowering his center console or his sailboat, like, he'll have that experience of that awesome little kicker for his dinghy or sailboat, and then consider electric for his or her bigger boat down the line. So we're getting it out there with the small electric outboards that are designed for propulsion, and we're starting to sell Minn Kota and Garmin trolling motors for center consoles. It's the kind of the market where we're at, and they've become super popular. And while it's not the primary source of propulsion for these boats, it's having an electric motor on your boat, and just like the other ones, it'll kind of be a funnel towards these big electric boats that can totally replace gas and get them off the water.
I love it, man. It's funny. We had to, in our Google ads, we had to not look for Minn Kota or trolling motor stuff, because the amount of inquiries we got are absurd, and we still get them. I get excited when the sales phone rings, and it's like, my spiel, and they're like, yeah, I was looking for a Minn Kota. I'm like, God dang it. I'll send them your way, though. I usually just send them to West Marine up the road.
No, and we've had that too. Every boat show we do, it's like, oh, is that Minn Kota, right? And we've always been like, no. And, ultimately we were like, okay, like, we should just stop saying no to this. Like, I can install one of those. It's not a complicated system. The electrical systems for those trolling motors are more often than not totally independent from the electrical system to the rest of the boat. So the wiring is super basic. It's not hard to do. And, why not? We're getting more electric propulsion on boats, and keep it rolling from there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, man. I deal, I don't know, with a lot of trolls on social media, but then there's a segment of the guys that are open to it, and a lot of their comments are like, oh yeah, I could see how this could work. I've been using a trolling motor for decades. It's like,
yeah,
there's a use case, that's where it makes sense, and it's, I mean, I go back and forth with these idiots, and it's like, if you can't accept that someone else has a different use case than you're just not good at critical thinking. I got to know what your issue is. It's like, there's a reason I don't drive a semi truck every day. That's because I'm not a tow truck driver, there's other people that have different applications for means of propulsion, and people just don't get that. Or they're upset by it. It's like they've been born and bred by big oil and OPEC, just grooming them forever. It's like they get paid by them. I always ask, do you get paid dividends at least for this, man? You're out here advocating for these guys. Just mind boggling.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And I'm the first person to admit, there's so many use cases that electric doesn't work for. Like, people be like, well, I got to go out to the canyon. I'm like, don't buy electric. Don't do it. It's not going to work. I hope one day it will, but not today. Stick with the gas, man. That's not it. And I know you're the same way. It's like, we're not, and some manufacturers really, I think, try and push it maybe more than they should. And, we have to be honest, there's limitations to this stuff right now. And, those limitations are changing every day. But, like you said, there's, 40% of boaters could switch to electric and have no impact on their range and what they can do, and all of that. And, I mean, even with these small electric outboards that we sell, I get asked so often, oh, it's only an hour and 15 minutes of runtime at full power. And then I explain, you're probably running at 3/4 throttle, so you're really getting closer to 2 hours. And people still want to buy a second battery. And when we first started, I would sell them the second battery because I didn't really know any better. And then I had a couple of people come back to me, and they were like, hey, this thing is great, but I never used the second battery. And so now whenever someone asks me, I just say, just start with one. I'll sell you another one in a month if you want it. But save the $1,500 and just try it with the regular charger. Don't buy the fast charger. Don't buy the second battery. And it's so rare that we have someone come back for a second battery. It's so rare.
You're just like me, man. You're a terrible salesman. Because
yeah,
any other hardcore salesman out there would be like, oh yeah, here's the fast charger, 2 batteries, maybe a third. You never know. You don't want to get stuck out there, and it's funny because I do the same thing too, man. And it's like in these little cocktail boats, it's like you can get 5 kilowatt hours, 10 or 15. And someone's like, oh, we need 3 batteries. It's like, are you planning on running a rental program? Like, this is like 8 to 10 hours of runtime, man. Like, I love these boats too, but you're not spending 10 hours on a cocktail boat. Like, there's no bathroom. Like, you're going 5 miles an hour. Like, it's funny. I say that though, but then I'll meet someone that's using it as like a coach boat or a tour boat or something. It's like, okay, you need all 3 batteries. Perfect. Here is, 12 hours of runtime at 5 miles an hour. But you're right. A lot of people just don't know what they need. And I think that's kind of the fun part being in this now. Like, there's a lot of this that's just education and discovery, and like being able to like hold their hand. But you, similar to me, you're not this like money hungry, salesman. And so we're pretty honest with these. I was really glad when I met you guys too, because there's just some people I run into, whether it's in person or on social media, and it's just they say, oh no, I did a quick reel of that amphibious boat. I don't know what it was. It had tires on it. It was the coolest thing. But it was a gas powered boat, and like I got some flack for that. Like people messaged me and they're like, "Oh no, get rid of all fossil fuels," And it's like if it's fossil fuel powered, it's bad. And it's like you realize how much of this world is going to need oil, right? It doesn't matter if it's for medicine or plastics or lubrication or electronics. Like most of your life is impacted by oil. But like if we can remove it in terms of the transportation consumption, like what's the bad part there? That's what just blows my mind.
All right. I guess that's our time. Thank you, Luke and TR from EMO Electric for being here with us today. Before we go, do you have any websites or socials you want to share with our audience?
And your grand opening?
Yeah, absolutely. So our grand opening of our store is May 17th. It's from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Our new store is at 215 Atlantic Avenue in East Merches, New York, within Atlantic Cove Marina. We're going to have demos of small electric outboards on a dinghy and a sailboat, and then rides on our Scout Dorado, some food, some drinks. So everyone's welcome. I hope you can come down. We've got a lot of great content on our YouTube channel. It's EMO Electric, and we've got on the water test comparisons of different small electric outboards. And, if anyone ever wants to try the Scout or a small electric outboard that we sell outside of this grand opening, we're very much open for business and would love to have you out on board.
Good stuff.
Eddie, you've been listening to Electrified Marina Podcast, brought to you by Electrified Marina and electrifiedmarina.com. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please share with your friends. Please leave comments, questions, feedback, or potential guests in the comment section on YouTube, and that will help us to reach more people and spread our message. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching.
Thanks.
Guys.